Hello everyone and welcome back to Clara's Chronicles, where today is boring, so let's get exploring. I found an article that I am so excited to talk about because if anyone knows me, they know I'm in love with the paranormal. So when I saw this article, I thought, oh my gosh, this is too cool. And this is from the Sunday Telegram, and it was published November 14th, 1915. Before we start, I want to make a note that my last video was really harsh with the voice, so I added this sound reduction. I don't know what these are called. And I put it a little further away because I know that sometimes I can be harsh. My girlfriend Alexis says that my voice already travels naturally, so I'm going to try to be very calm tonight and speak really slow and low because the microphone can do the work. So let's go ahead and start. This is a super cool article about ghosts, and you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that is in it. If I scroll down, it's having trouble loading. Okay, here we go. There's actually a photo you wouldn't believe, but we'll get to that later. So let's go ahead and start. The title says, Dr. James Hyslop declares that the individual spirit life has been proved. That's a bold claim to make. Professor von Schrenk-Notzing says he has demonstrated the actuality of ghosts. Sir Alfred Turner says he has spoken with the dead spirit. Julia Sanderson tells a remarkable story of the dead. Science is hard at work to determine whether it is a fact, as spiritualists long have held and as Gray tradition has indicated, that the dead return. But the question naturally arises among some thinkers, return from where? For if infinity has neither beginning nor ending, and a disembodied intelligence has neither dimension nor color, how can it occupy a space that is not space? And how can we see it if it possesses no quality that is visible? Some psychologists dealing with this conundrum, along with indisputable testimony as to apparitions, answer that the ghost is not beheld by the actual eye, but it is the result of a mental impression which is visualized so sharply that one believes he sees the person or thing. Materializing spirits. Dr. James Hyslop of the American Society for Psychical Research, I haven't seen that word before, Psychical Research, declares that the existence of individual spirit life has been proved, which belief has been shared by Sir Oliver Lodge. Professor von Schrenk-Notzing, Foreign Corresponding Secretary of the University of Munich, literally convulsed. Is that convulsed? I feel like that word doesn't go, but convulsed scientific Europe recently when in his erudite work, The Phenomena of Materialization. He joined the increasing number of scientific men who have become convinced, almost against their will in some cases, notably Lombroso, that there is something in the spook manifestations of the seance room when such are based upon honesty and good purpose. The German investigator who admits the reality of materialization approached the subject of spiritualistic phenomena fully prepared to discover that it had its origin in some form of self-deception or in the activity of some hitherto unknown natural human faculty. But an experimental investigation of the phenomena extending over a period of 4 years, carried on with the aid of a dozen photographic cameras and under all the test conditions which the rigidly skeptical scientific mind can devise, have constrained him to abandon this mental attitude and to make his public and unhesitating confession of faith. This confession is to the effect that the phenomena of materialization are an object fact of science, and that so far, science has found itself utterly unable to discover the cause which is at work in their production. Professor von Schrenk-Notzing abstains from seriously attempting an interpretation of the phenomena, and with scientific loyalty he gives to the public all the facts of the case. Great point settled. It would be difficult, says J. Godfrey Roppert, an English critic, to overestimate the significance of this publication and of the professor's statements, especially when it is borne in mind that in Italy, too, a similar work, also from the pen of a medical man, and illustrated by numerous striking photographs, and confirming all Professor von Schrenk-Notzing's observations, has just ensued from the press. It will have to be admitted, therefore, that for the mind which is not hopelessly entangled in the net of conventional or constitutional skepticism, and which will take the trouble to study the evidence, the entire question as to the reality and objectivity of these mysterious phenomena may now be regarded as settled. It would be difficult to add to the evidence available, or to produce experimenters and authorities of higher standing to testify in their favor. Should I keep the accent or not? It is certain, beyond all possibility of doubt, that abnormal phenomena, utterly baffling to science and escaping all scientific analysis, take place, and that these phenomena are governed by some kind of intelligence which would seem to be independent of the medium through whom they are induced. That science is the last to study and acknowledge phenomena which have been known to large groups of humbler and unscientific inquirers for many years past, is, of course, a small matter. Science, as we all know, is at present engaged in performing that feat of intellectual gymnastics which takes it out of the depths of materialism onto the heights of a spiritualistic philosophy, without, however, acknowledging for a moment that it has been hopelessly at sea in its interpretation of the world of phenomena, and that it has by them led thousands of other unwary souls astray. Dangers of scientific blunders. The probability, therefore, unfortunately, is that science is in danger of committing similar blunders with respect to the phenomena under consideration, and that unless the public is made acquainted with all of the facts of the case, still greater evils and misconceptions will result from scientific pronouncements. Major Gen. Sir Alfred Turner, an author of many books on various subjects, solemnly avers that the late W.T. Stead has materialized in his presence, and that he conversed with the shade of the editor, who told of the Titanic disaster and praised the progress of occult work. Shortly afterward, Julia's Burrow, the spiritualistic headquarters maintained by Mr. Stead, but closed after his death, was reopened under the patronage of Lady Lewis. It has been called by those indifferent to it the spook headquarters of the world. Mr. Stead had made a wonderful collection of ghostly incidents from all parts of the world, and his borderland library at the Bureau covered every point of interest in the wide field of psychic phenomena. Man, don't you wish you could have visited that while it was open? Let me show you a photo. It's really dark, so you can't really see anything. But here's the door. It says door of the spiritualistic headquarters established by W.T. Stead in London. Sometimes irreverently spoken as the spook headquarters of the world. Mr. Stead is said to have returned to Sir Alfred Turner and others. On this side of the ocean, apart from the work of the organized bodies such as the Society for Psychical Research, an interesting work of collection of ghostly phenomena has been undertaken by Miss Annabel Lee and Mrs. Champ Clark, the wife of the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. Wow. It covers all sections of the country and has been carried on with systematic precision and scientific thoroughness, yielding an abundance of the most fascinating testimonies of which the following is selected, which is below. My Father's Ghostly Visitor, a personal narrative by Julia Sanderson. It seems such a preposterous story that I never like to tell, but well, here goes. You see, it didn't happen to me. It's really my father's story. My father is an actor and stage manager, and a great deal of his work has been done as stage director for stock companies. Stock companies put on the plays that have already been done in the city theaters, and the stage director makes it a rule to follow the original business of the play as closely as possible. For this purpose, prompt books are made up by the original producers, and the directors of stock companies have these to go by. In them, all the business, that is to say, the little things that the actors have to do between the lines, is all plainly indicated. But sometimes the man who gets up the prompt book isn't careful about that, and then the stage director has to depend upon his own memory. Or if he hasn't seen the original production, his own invention. At the time this occult thing happened, my father was the stage director of a stock company in one of the smaller cities up in New York State. The prompt book of this particular play was very incomplete and had little or none of the business marked in it. He had never seen the original production of the piece, and he was pretty well puzzled to know just what ought to be done in certain situations. One situation was particularly difficult to work out, and he had been thinking about it night and day for nearly a week, and still he hadn't gotten it to suit him. He happened to remember that the man who put on the play was originally an old friend of his. We'll call him John Smith because that wasn't his name. Father had written to Smith asking him to give him some information about the particular scene that was bothering him, but had received no reply. Indirectly, however, he learned Smith was on a tour in the South. Father didn't know his route, and anyway, it was too late to write him and get back word in time to do any good. It was Friday night, and the play was to be presented on Monday. Father simply couldn't get that scene right, and he worried greatly. After the regular performance, he returned to his hotel, and instead of going to his room, he was sitting down in the writing room at one of the desks thinking hard and trying to figure out on a piece of paper just how the scene ought to be played. It was quite late, nearly midnight, and there was no one else in the writing room. Suddenly, Father, this is the way he tells the story himself, looked up across his desk to the one that was backed up against it, and there, to his utter astonishment, he saw Smith looking at him. "Why, John, when did you get here?" asked Father. And then, without waiting for a reply, being so full of the scene in the play that he wanted to work out, he went right on and asked Smith to tell him about it, and Smith did. Father says he talked to him for nearly 5 minutes and explained about the situation that had been bothering him. Then suddenly he got up, Smith did, and walked toward the door and disappeared without saying goodbye or anything. Father thought it was very queer and followed him out into the main lobby of the hotel, but Smith had apparently disappeared. Father walked over to the desk and asked the clerk if John Smith was stopping there and when he had arrived. The clerk looked at his rack and said there was no such man in the hotel. That puzzled Father still more, of course. But as the thing that had been bothering him was now clear in his mind, he went upstairs and went to bed and to sleep at once. In the morning, when he got up and went down to breakfast, he bought a paper as usual and took it in to read while he was drinking his coffee. And there, right on the first page, with a big headline, was a story telegraphed from some place in the South that the night before, John Smith, this same John Smith with whom Father thought he had talked, had walked off the tail end of a sleeping car on a train going at a rapid rate and had been picked up dead by the train hands who went back to look for him. The time of the accident, as it was given in the paper, was just about the time, as nearly as father could reckon it, that he had seen and talked to Smith there in the writing room of the hotel hundreds of miles from the place where he had been killed. Whoa, that's crazy. That is too cool. I also wanted to go ahead and show this picture from earlier. It says, camera record showing an extraordinary demonstration of an unexplained power made by Mil Stanislaw Tomask in the presence of Dr. Ochorowicz of Paris, in which this woman caused a pair of scissors to rise from a table without touching them. That's a real photo. Do you think it was real? That was a good story. It was kind of hard to follow along to this piece, but still very, very cool to read. And to know that this was being studied in 1915 and still being studied today with not very much progress is so intriguing to me. Who knows what's after death? No one knows, and that's what makes it so exciting. And it makes you want to learn more, open yourself up, and just see what's out there. I mean, we are living on a ball suspended in the middle of a universe. What's so hard to, believe about other things like ghosts or extraterrestrials? Anyways, I thought this article was amazing. I don't want to take too much time. So if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like, and have a great day. I will see you next time. I have a ton of articles like these that I will be mentioning in the next few videos. Have a good night.